Do not touch this screen. Do not switch the video. Do not look away even for a second, because what you are about to hear is not the word of man, but a message sent from heaven directly to your spirit. There are moments in life when heaven interrupts our routine, when the whisper of the eternal becomes so clear, so precise, that it cannot be ignored. And this is one of those moments. I, the Lord your God, have come to speak to you, to reveal what has long been hidden, waiting for its perfect time. You thought you were watching just another video, that today would be like any other day. But I had already marked this moment in your story before your eyes even opened this morning. It wasn't the algorithm. It wasn't chance. It was my hand that brought you here, because chains must be broken today, doors must be opened, and promises must begin to be fulfilled. I told you this would be yours. And though you have doubted, though the weight of time and the opinions of others have tried to convince you that there is nothing left for you, my word has not changed. What I have declared over your house, what I have spoken over your life, still stands. Nothing, neither time, nor waiting, nor delays, nor the disbelief of others has the power to cancel what I have already sealed with my eternal mark. You have lived things no one knows. You have cried in the silence of night while others slept peacefully. You have carried burdens the world cannot imagine, and yet you kept going. But the world does not know what it has cost you. They don't understand the deserts you crossed, the giants you faced without strength, the prayers that left you as broken sighs. While others demanded more from you, all you wanted was to breathe, to find meaning, to hold on to faith. And I was there in every tear, in every battle, in every attempt to give up. I saw it all. And even though you felt invisible to people, you were always visible to me. Now I say to you, open with faith, not with fear, not with doubt, not with resignation. Open with faith, because the moment has come. What I have prepared for you is not a scrap from heaven, not a half-hearted answer. It is a full inheritance, a blessing that comes directly from my throne, crafted by my own hands. I prepared it for you, for your home, for your generation. This is not the result of human effort. This is grace. It is favor. It is the fulfillment of promises I wrote into your story before you were born. I want you to know that this is a divine time. You are not in an ordinary season. You have entered the appointed time, the time of my visitation. What once made no sense will now begin to become clear. What seemed like silence was my strategy. What seemed like waiting was my protection. You did not arrive late. You arrived exactly when you were meant to. And that is why I speak to you today, because it is no longer time to look back, to pause, or to retreat in fear. This is the time to move forward, to believe, to open with faith what has been reserved for you. Stay here. Don't get distracted. Don't leave. This word is for you. It's not just another message, it's a reminder from heaven that I do not forget what I promise. I do not lie. And I am never late in delivering what I said would be yours. Remain standing, even when everything around you seemed to fall apart. It was my word that held your foundations together. It was my hand that lifted you when you thought you wouldn't make it. And now is not a time for fear. It is a time for positioning, a time for active faith, for spiritual determination, because heaven is releasing answers and you are part of what I am rebuilding. Listen carefully, because I, the Lord your God, do not speak to entertain your soul, but to awaken it. You've reached this point in your life because my hand has sustained you, and now I want you to know something with absolute certainty. You are not forgotten. And this word is not only for you, but for everything around you. What I am doing is not limited to you. Through you, I will carry this message to many more. But first, you must stay with me until the end. Listen to all I have to say and do not interrupt what I have begun inside you, because I do not leave my work unfinished. You don't know how many nights you ended with your head down, your heart in turmoil, feeling like the world kept moving while you were barely holding on. There are bills on the table, decisions that steal your sleep, worries about your children that drive you to pray from the depths of your soul like one crying for help in a never-ending desert. But I saw every moment. I saw every night you wrestled with thoughts that gave you no peace. I saw you when exhaustion made you believe you couldn't go any further, and yet you rose again, even if only out of obedience, even if only by faith. Even when no one else saw you, I did. Even when you felt your strength was at its limit, it was my hand that sustained you. You haven't lost everything. On the contrary, you've made it this far because what was yours by promise has remained untouched. I hid it in my timing. I kept it out of the enemy's reach. I covered it with my faithfulness, and I waited for one thing, the exact moment to reveal it. And that moment has come. That's why I'm calling you now, because what was once invisible to your eyes, I'm bringing to the surface. I'm placing it clearly before you. Do not doubt, do not resist, do not try to reason away what I've prepared. It doesn't depend on what the world denied you, on the doors that were shut, or on the opportunities that never seemed to come. It depends on one thing: if you believe enough to open without fear what I've set before you. You've lived surrounded by ever-growing responsibilities. Your days seem to have no pause. The exhaustion isn't only in your body, it lives in your spirit, in your emotions, in your soul, which has wanted to scream many times but had to stay silent for the sake of others. There are people in your home who look to you for strength, direction, and answers, and with the weight on your shoulders, you have stayed firm even when your soul cried out for help inside. I know it. I've seen it. And that's why I haven't come today just to comfort you. I've come to unlock what was stuck, to restore what seemed lost, to fulfill what I promised you. Because what is yours is no longer on hold, it is being released. What once felt like a distant hope, something you looked at with tired eyes from afar, I am now turning into reality. You don't need to understand how. You only need to open. You only need to trust. What I said would be yours is still yours. Don't deny it. Don't delay it any longer. There are doors that only open when the heart chooses to believe more in my voice than in the circumstances surrounding it. While you cared for everyone else, while you met others' needs, you so often forgot to care for yourself. Your knees grew weary from praying for those who didn't always value your love, your dedication, your sacrifice. You gave, you believed, you carried burdens no one else knew the weight of. But listen closely, none of your acts of love went unnoticed. Every act of love, every silent tear, every sacrifice that only you and I know about rose to me like a seed, and every seed that reaches heaven returns multiplied to the earth. And that multiplication has already begun to manifest. I don't speak of it as a future promise. I declare it as a present reality. This is the time, this is the hour. This is the season of the harvest you sowed with your soul. Just open with faith. You have reached this point because I upheld every step, even those you took with trembling legs and an exhausted heart. Nothing you faced was by chance. And though there were moments when you felt overwhelmed, you were never outside my sight. every hidden battle you fought, every difficult decision you had to make when no one else understood your burden, all of it has been counted, recorded, and preserved before me. So many days felt like an endless repetition. Obligations surrounded you like walls, and exhaustion became a constant companion. You kept rising not out of strength, but out of responsibility, doing what was needed while your soul grew weary from within. You became a refuge for others, a guide to those who sought you, a pillar for a household that depends on your strength. But in that constant giving, you also forgot what it feels like to truly rest, to trust without tension, to breathe without a weight on your shoulders. I have seen all of this, and not only have I seen it, I have kept each detail, each cry, each tear that did not fall in vain within my perfect timing. The enemy tried to convince you that your exhaustion meant defeat, that your waiting meant abandonment. He wanted you to believe that my promises had faded with time, as though what I spoke had an expiration date. But what I determine stands firm. My word does not bow to circumstances, nor does it change with human opinion. What I sealed with my eternal voice cannot be canceled by any storm. Remember, the clock of heaven is never late nor early, and what seemed delayed was in fact a deep and invisible work being prepared in you and around you. Those were not wasted years, they were years of sowing, years where what seemed barren was actually taking root. Years where you were being formed not for the ordinary, but for that which is grounded in the eternal. While others advanced in what was visible, I was growing you in what is profound. While others were building with noise, I was teaching you to build in secret, because what I build cannot be torn down. What I give cannot be stolen. What I seal cannot be undone. And that's why I speak to you today, because you are closer than you've ever imagined, because what once seemed invisible is now beginning to take shape. It wasn't that it didn't exist, it simply wasn't time. But now what was hidden in my will is starting to be revealed before your eyes, not because of merit, but because of faithfulness, not because of perfection, but because of perseverance. You have gone through many things that could have broken others, yet you remain sometimes without understanding, other times without feeling, but with a faith that held on to what little remained. You've seen the needs pile up, the bills that wouldn't wait, the diagnoses that stirred fear, and the relentless days. But none of it has been unnoticed. Everything has been seen, even the things you never spoke of. When you felt like you were giving more than you had, when fear sat at your table, when the future seemed uncertain, my presence never left you. I have been your constant refuge, even when you didn't feel it. And now I come not only to remind you that I am here, but to manifest what I have promised. What I kept hidden wasn't out of punishment or neglect, it was out of protection. What I have prepared for your life needed to arrive at the perfect moment. Not before, not after. You now stand before a door that cannot be opened with human keys. This door responds to only one thing: faith. A faith that dares to believe even when logic says it's too late. A faith that moves not by emotions, but by obedience. This door won't open with noise, it opens with surrender. It doesn't require effort, it requires yielding. As you walked and sowed, many didn't understand your process. They didn't see the days of struggle, the sleepless nights, the painful decisions made in obedience. You gave when you had nothing left. You spoke life when you yourself needed comfort. You carried more than your soul could handle. But none of it was in vain. Every step, every seed, every act of faith hath been counted as a seed. And every seed planted under my word returns as multiplied fruit. You don't need to fear what's coming. What lies before you is not judgment, it is fulfillment. It is not loss, it is restoration. It is not a test, it is the answer. You have arrived at the place where my word is no longer just a promise, but a manifestation. Don't try to understand everything. Just remain with an open heart, without reservation, without overthinking what you are receiving. This is not the time to calculate, it is the time to believe. Because what I decreed in the heavens is now beginning to manifest on the earth. Everything I have allowed in your journey has served a higher purpose beyond your understanding. I have not wasted a single detail of your story. The times you believed you were making decisions alone, the moments when you felt lost without direction, the days your plans fell apart without any clear reason, all of it was part of a design greater than your human vision. I stopped you when you wanted to run, and moved you when you had resigned yourself to staying still. I did it because I see what you cannot see, and I know the paths that lead to where I have determined you should be. I've been working in the silence. While you thought nothing was moving, I was already preparing connections, resources, people, and scenarios that you could never have created on your own. What seemed like an activity was actually construction, a construction that happens in dimensions beyond natural sight. I went ahead of your needs. I placed provision before lack even appeared. I stored up answers before you had the questions. I prepared the way out long before you realized you were trapped. And now, what hath been developing far from your understanding is beginning to reveal itself clearly. Not because I have changed it, but because you have been formed to see from a different place. The process you went through was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to expand your vision. There were things you couldn't receive until you learned to see beyond the present, until you learned to trust not only in what I do, but in who I am. Because the greatest miracle doesn't happen outside of you, it happens within. When your heart learns to rest in my character, you no longer need external signs to believe. In every fall there was an outstretched hand. In every unexpected closure, a better door was reserved. When you lost relationships, opportunities, and stability, you weren't being abandoned, you were being redirected. Because even though you didn't see it at the time, I was protecting you from what would hinder your growth. I removed what seemed good but was not eternal. I allowed what looked solid to break because it was built on a fragile foundation. It was protected. Now, in this stage, I'm not asking you for explanations. I'm not asking you to justify your past mistakes. I've already seen your heart. I'm not pointing at your doubts or your stumbles. My desire is not for you to live in guilt, but to understand that I still trust what I planted inside you. There is something I placed within you that hasn't died. It may be covered by the dust of frustration or numbed by the weight of disappointment, but it is not dead. It is waiting for the moment when you align with my word and dare to walk again, not with the strength of before, but with the certainty you now carry. What is beginning to open before you is not a repetition of the old, it is a brand new season. I am not bringing back what you lost. I am bringing something better, something that matches the person you have become. You will not return to the starting point. You will move forward into a dimension where everything you have lived will make sense. Because even the chapters that bring you shame, I redeemed them. Even the days you thought were wasted, I turn them into part of the testimony that will bring light to others. I am calling you to let go of the need to understand everything, not because understanding isn't valuable, but because there are revelations that can only be received through obedience. You have searched for many answers, and in trying to solve everything, you have worn yourself out. But the peace you long for will not come when everything fits into your logic. Peace comes when you choose to rest in my direction. Even if you don't yet see the full destination, heaven has already spoken over you, and that word remains firm. It does not change with seasons, nor dissolve with delays. It is active, it is alive, and what I am awakening within you is part of its fulfillment. This is not the time to retreat to what is familiar, but to move forward toward the eternal. Signs will come, doors will open, resources will appear, but all of that will be the result of something deeper. Your willingness to trust unconditionally in what I am doing in the unseen. Do not cling to what once made you feel secure. I am teaching you to walk by faith, not by sight. What I am doing in this season is unlike anything before. It does not resemble your expectations or follow the patterns others have experienced. What I am doing with you is unique, because your calling, your story, and your assignment are one of a kind, and for that reason, the process you went through was not in vain. Everything set apart for your life is connected by an invisible thread I have woven with purpose and precision. Nothing has been random, and nothing has been wasted. Every step, every pause, every unexpected turn has been carefully stitched by my hand to bring you to a place where your ears could hear what you once weren't ready to receive. Because it's not just about arriving, it's about arriving prepared. What I have reserved for you is not fragile, not temporary, and not shallow. That's why I have worked deeply in places no one else sees, in areas even you couldn't understand. There were seasons when everything on the outside seemed stuck, fruitless, without progress. But those times were root fields. While you were looking for signs in the sky, I was strengthening your foundations on the earth, teaching you to remain when there were no results, to move forward without applause, to sow with faithfulness even when the soil looked dry. Because those who sustain the eternal cannot live conditioned by what is visible. And even when your surroundings didn't show it, the growth within you was steady and unbroken. At times, you asked for everything to be resolved immediately. You longed for my intervention to come with noise, for my hand to move the external as a sign that I was working. But what I'm building doesn't require a spectacle. I'm not interested in impressing, I'm interested in transforming. And the most lasting transformations don't happen through loud displays, but through whispers that redirect the heart, through truths that replace broken structures, through my presence that reorders everything from within. Your story is not defined by your moments of success, nor limited by your failures. It is sustained by a word that remains firm even when the world changes. And that word has direction. It is not a vague message or an uncertain hope. It is a clear decree, with specific design and eternal purpose. That is why I don't want you to cling to outcomes. I want you to hold on to my voice. Results may come and go, but my voice is the compass that never fails. I know there are areas in your life where you feel the structure can no longer bear the weight. Strain, relationships, decisions that once felt right but now feel heavy, paths that divide and leave you unsure of where to go. I'm not asking you to have all the answers. I'm inviting you to trust mine. You've been tested emotionally, financially, and spiritually. Every part of your life has been touched not to weaken you, but to show you that there is no area where I cannot intervene. What is now being revealed will not be a temporary fix or a partial solution. It will be a complete testimony of restoration. I'm not doing surface-level repairs. I'm making all things new. What seemed impossible to rebuild, I will raise again with new materials, a new foundation, and a direction that is not limited by the past. I'm clearing your vision, refining your direction, and revealing the strategy. It's not about everything being perfect before you can move forward. On the contrary, it is in the midst of imperfection that my glory shines the brightest. If you wait to have everything under control before moving, you'll miss the miracle of obedience. Movement is not born from control, it is born from faith. And it is in obedience, even in uncertainty, where provision appears, where the path opens, where strength is renewed. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You're not in a spiritual competition or race to meet human expectations. I didn't call you to fit in, I called you to transform. That's why I'm separating you from old patterns, from structures that limited you, from voices that confuse your identity. I'm silencing the noise so that my word becomes your only guide, because what is coming requires clarity. And clarity does not come in haste, it comes through communion. This is the time to surrender the tools that no longer work, to stop relying on past formulas, to let go of methods that kept you busy, but not fruitful. I am not seeking your effort, I'm seeking your availability. I'm not asking for more strength, I'm asking for more space. Make room for me not just in your schedule, but in your inner being. Because where I dwell, everything begins to align, not instantly, not like magic, but with a progressive, steady, unstoppable order. You have arrived at the threshold of something completely new, but the new does not begin outside. It begins within. When you allow my truth to replace your fear, when you let my direction hold more weight than your logic, when you understand that the waiting was not loss but preparation, that is where true transformation begins. And from that place, I will take you further than you ever dreamed. There are territories you have not yet walked, promises you have not yet seen, because they were reserved for a version of you that was still being formed. And now that spiritual maturity has come, now that your breaking did not crush you but gave you roots, I tell you it is time to move forward without retreat, to walk without fear, to lift your head and step with determination. What I have prepared requires a steady heart, a renewed mind, and an awakened vision. Willingness alone is not enough, you must be prepared. And you have been formed with purpose, in silence, in hidden places where no one applauded but where I was present, teaching, shaping, refining. The doors before you are not ordinary doors. They are not adorned with human decoration. They bear no visible signs or promises that catch the natural eye. These are doors of the Spirit, doors of revelation, alignment, and destiny. They are gateways to a dimension of fulfillment that cannot be reached through skill, but only through surrender. What is about to open will not be sustained by your effort, but by my faithfulness. But to cross them, there are things you cannot take with you. There are weights that must be left behind. There are thoughts that cannot pass through to the other side. There are relationships, habits, and expectations that must be released, because where I am taking you, there is no room for what does not build. From this point on, it will not be your surroundings that dictate your faith, it will be your faith that transforms your surroundings. It will not be your past that speaks the loudest, it will be my voice within you that sets the rhythm of your days. You will no longer walk by reacting, you will walk by leading. You will no longer be adapting to what comes, you will be establishing what I have sent. Because you are part of what I am building, not just for you, but for those who will come after you. Your life will be a sign, a foundation, a response. And everything that once seemed insignificant will now make sense. Do not look back. Do not look to the sides. Look to me, because what I have ahead of you far exceeds what lies behind. The time for hiding is over. The time for minimizing what I placed inside you is also over. It is time to open, to release, to believe, because what once seemed delayed is now at the door. What once seemed impossible is already in motion, and what once seemed invisible has already begun to manifest.